for the person who has to come on after Luke. So please put your hands together for Mr. Mark Blayney. Thank you very much. Now, some of you may recognise me from the earlier bits. My presentation this evening is called The Headmaster in Borneo. I'm nodding at Harriet.
Oh, sorry.
Right, okay, here we go. Good morning, school. Now, we don't have time for the register today, although if Tom Patterson is in, I can tell you that your aunt's condition remains the same. No, worse. Right, so why are we gathered here today? Well, I'll tell you. No doubt all of you will be champing at the bit to discover how the school's expedition went last month. And during this 5.5-hour lecture, with one comfort break, so I hope you all went earlier, I'll be giving you some highlights. Now, as you know, this year's expedition was the result of a competition held to decide where we should go for this year's trip. Now, unfortunately, the top result was Amsterdam, with specific reference to cafe culture and excellent nightlife. No thanks to the boys in the lower sixth, who corrupted the competition with block voting. So instead it was unilaterally decided by myself and Miss Johnson of the Geography Department that the winning students would instead be going to the tropical island paradise of Borneo, known for its orangutans, flora and fauna, and violent headhunting tribes, all of whom we planned to visit. Now, some eyebrow raising, not to mention deciding that she didn't want to go, was mentioned by Miss Johnson, but I was able to assure her that the headhunters very much live in the 21st century now, with franchised caffeine outlets and a road. And this accommodation that we see here, with its individual shower block and television sets showing a wide array of one channel, was very much appreciated by the winning students, who do not appear in these pictures for legal reasons. Now, unfortunately, the road was in the process of being built, which Miss Johnson said she wasn't very happy about because she didn't have the right shoes. But, undeterred, we pressed on. And this is the native species known as the bearded pig, or, as it was once described by David Attenborough, this noble beast is the terror of the local tribes. Despite its seemingly friendly appearance, it can gore a man at 15 paces and is avoided by all sane inhabitants. As I was moving in for a close-up, it ran off with the bag that included the money, the girls' passports, etc. It then ran into the undergrowth, and Miss Johnson brought her knowledge of the island to the fore by explaining that it consists of 85,000 square miles of dense, impenetrable jungle. And I was urged, not to mention shoved, into following this beast with a large stick and shouting at it in a variety of languages, until it dropped the bag and ran off into the undergrowth. After a few tears, which I tried to describe, I showed Miss Johnson this enormous plant, which she said made the whole 19-hour flight and subsequent bus ride in a non-air conditioned coach through potholed gravel for 72 miles in 40-degree tropical equatorial heat, all worthwhile, probably. I felt that she wasn't entering the spirit of the expedition fully and hoped to be able to distract her with more wildlife. And lo and behold, we discovered these monkeys. The monkeys are the ones on the left. As I recently saw graffitied in the toilets, one of them wanted to tell me about this play called Hamlet that he'd been writing for the last 4 billion years, but it was at this point that Annabel and Peaches-Chardonnay decided they'd had enough and were going back to the accommodation with their Tudor passports. At this point, the girls were covered in sweat, had torn their dresses in several places, and were breathing rather heavily. They do not appear in these pictures for legal reasons. So there we were, school, just 3 days into the trip, and I was facing something of a revolution, not just from the students, but also from Miss Johnson, who alleged that I was incapable of organising what she described as a tea party in a monkey house, and wished that she'd never signed up to what she described as a nightmare of Gorgonzolan proportions. I think she was a little bit tired and wasn't actually referring to the cheese, but anyway, I and my slides digress. Now, fortunately, school, at this point your headmaster's training in psychology came to the fore, and I arranged for us all to have a more entertaining trip the next day. And we went to the Festival of Light, an event that takes place only once every 9 hours. Where this may initially have seemed to be a good idea, the best laid plans of valiant headmasters went all gang agley, or, as it's also known, cocked up, by the presence of what was described as many activities in a laid-back environment with plenty of refreshments, which Annabel and Peaches-Chardonnay, on these pictures for legal reasons, took like ducks to water, losing all of their money, documents, clothes, etc. I was unable to get the clothes back until after the naked fountain climbing competition, and I've written to Lonely Planet telling them that as our trip was immediately curtailed by Interpol, in future they may want to rephrase their description of this clothes-free festival to enable future team leaders to avoid my understandable misunderstanding, which was covered in some detail by the Daily Mail. Now, the terms of the court order prevent me from contacting Annabel and Peaches-Chardonnay on these pictures for legal reasons directly, so if anybody in the audience is able to return these possessions to the girls, please see Miss Johnson at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning after she returns from counselling. And lastly, it is with great excitement that I look forward to my subsequent career, which I have now been told will be outside of the education sector. After I have served 6 months at Her Majesty's Prison, Pentonville, I am sure Her Majesty will be very pleased to have someone of my social standing attending one of her establishments. And these pictures of Annabel and Peaches-Chardonnay, which were removed from my effects, will be returned to their owners. So now please turn to your hymn books for number 153, I Vow to Thee My Country, as I have to go outside where 4 policemen and a black Mariah are waiting. Thank you very much, school, for paying attention. Please do come back. Please come back, school, in 15 minutes. We'll be having a short break, 15 minutes, where we will then be continuing Pecha Kucha. And please note, alcohol is only for 6th formers. Thank you very much.